Hello, everyone. My name is Eileen Nicole, and today we are on here and live doing some news here, keeping our updates on this administration, Trump, and how everything is going. I wanted to talk about some of the stuff that he's been doing recently. Give me 1 second, okay? I'll be right back. All right. Thank you for waiting there for me. All right. So let's get to it. Let's talk about what's going on here with Donald Trump. So the first thing I just kind of wanted to go over was I just wanted people to understand what the purpose of Donald Trump's this new term that he's in, this new 4-year term that he's going to be um, running, and it's called the Project 2025. Now, I know that that is part of an initiative that a bunch of over 100 different think tanks came up with over the course of from his last administration up until this administration. They have been working on this for quite some time. A lot of the people from his first administration are the ones who had a very heavy hand in creating some of the things and the initiatives. There are over 700 initiatives. They had a lot to do with creating this project and returning back to the office. And so that's what this whole Project 2025 is. The point of it is to transform the entire federal government back into a very a very far right government, and they want to gut the Constitution, gut the checks and balances so that they can kind of take over the government, sort of like what happened with January 6th. However, um, they're not going to be, it won't be as messy. They're going to try to be a little bit more organized, and they've seen how what the reaction was from the proletariat. They've seen what the action reaction was from Congress, uh, uh, just people all over the world. And so it gave them a chance to take a look at it and say, we're just going to refine what we're doing, but we're still going to keep on with the plan. So that's what Project 2025 is. It's a plan to take over the government by gutting the Constitution and regulations. And we've seen that with Donald Trump's first day in office when he decided to go ahead and write all those different executive orders, over 300, almost 350, and a lot of them were geared towards gutting out regulations. He wants to decentralize the government. So let's get into some of what Project 2025 is. Let's go over some of the overview. I believe, yeah. Okay. So this is the plan here, and these are just some of the bullet points of what the plan is and what it plans to do. And so this is from a Democratic website. I got this from. So let's go over this. It says, what is Trump's Project 2025? Project 2025 is the blueprint for Trump and MAGA Republicans to gut checks and balances so that they can take over the government, impose their agenda, and control every American in whatever form or fashion that may be. They plan to use this unchecked power to criminalize abortion nationwide, sell out the middle class in Social Security and Medicare as we know it, and control the rest of our lives. Below is an executive summary of their plan. So let's take a look. So these are the four pillars of the full Project 2025 plan. They have the blueprint, which is a 920 page document. This right here is the document, but we're not going to go over this. We'll probably throughout this presidency we'll probably revisit this, but this is basically is that first part of the initiative. And then let's see here. And then the second part is, let's see. And then there's this personnel database. So they have sort of like this LinkedIn database of different people that was recommended for Trump to elect for part of his cabinet. So this collects thousands of resumes from MAGA loyalists to replace nonpartisan civil servants with political appointees that pass the MAGA loyalty test. You know, this is so interesting because Donald Trump said that he wanted to put in meritocracy, meaning you get positions of power or job positions in corporate America based on your merits, based on if you have enough experience for the particular job, and not on nepotism, not on legacy admissions like in college, like when you go to these Ivy Leagues. So he said that he wanted to get rid of that, but those things are probably still in place. I'm sure that legacy admissions was not affected when he came after, because he just said DEI. And since legacy admissions are not DEI, but this happens all over corporate America, where there's the nepotism where you get hired if you know the right people. Now, this works with the proletariat too, but for the most part, it's more of a, it's not as prominent or dominant in our class of people. What ours looks like is if you get a good job and they have a referral program. That's it. That's about as far as you can get. The next thing is the Administration Academy, so private training center to shape and prepare MAGA loyalists to take over government positions and politicize the civil service. So again, this is the people that are supposed to be getting things on their merits, but it's a loyalist program. So if you are not a loyalist, if you're not, worshiping Donald Trump or MAGA, then if you're not making yourself look, if you're not embarrassing yourself for Donald Trump, then he doesn't want it. He wants true loyalists. Like he learned his lesson with Steve Bannon and just the old bunch that from last time that turned on him. His ex vice president. Gosh, what is his name? Gosh. So his vice president's name was Mike Pence. So Mike Pence, remember, he turned on him during the court hearings. I don't know if you guys remember that, but he did. So this time around, he wants just pure loyalists, meaning those people who are willing to basically embarrass themselves so that to show that they are loyal to his agenda. All right, and then we have the fourth pillar, which is the first 180 days playbook. So this secret action plan, including immediate executive orders and other actions, too controversial to publish, to carry out Trump's promise of being a dictator on day one. Now, Donald Trump did say something similar to this on, he said this on, I can't remember exactly This was on the campaign trail, though, but he did say this. He said he was wanted to be a dictator on day one. But these are the four pillars. So, armed with Project 2025, infused with absolute immunity from his Supreme Court, and unrestrained by the checks and balances that protected certain rights and freedoms during his first presidency, Trump would have everything he needs to take control of your life. That's your life and my life. So let's take a look at this little clip here from a year ago that Donald Trump said this on. So let's see. It's him joking, quote unquote, joking about being a dictator on day one. I don't think it's a joke. Basically, there's almost 350 executive orders. You're not joking about being a dictator on day one and week one, year one, year two, three, and four. Listen, I feel like, hold on, let's take a look at this.
Circumstances, you are promising America tonight you would never abuse power as retribution against anybody.
Except for day one.
Except
Look,
for?
he's going crazy. Except for day one.
Meaning?
I want to close the border and I want to drill.
That's
drill,
not. That's
drill.
That's not.
Oh, no.
That's not retribution.
I'm gonna be. You know, he keeps. I love this guy. He says, "You're not going to be a dictator, are you?" I said, "No, no, no. Other than day one, we're closing the border and we're drilling, drilling, drilling. After that, I'm not a dictator."
So that sounds to me like.
But you see what he said?
Tonight, you would never abuse power as retribution against anybody.
Except for day one.
And see, here's the thing. He's already fired a bunch of people. He's already gutted DEI. He's already fired a bunch of people in the military that seemingly, he says, if you don't tell on people that are DEI, basically McCarthyism. McCarthyism was a way for the senators and these politicians to go around and saying, hey, you're a communist, hey, you're a communist, and putting people in jail or deporting them if they felt that they were communists, which communism isn't this, it's not like fascism. So Hitler claimed that he was a communist, claims that he was a socialist, but really Hitler was a right-wing dictator. That's what he was. He just used socialism and communism as a cover story, propaganda. And we all know that the Jews were the kings of propaganda. But at the end of the day, he already this journalist asked him, "Are you going to be abusing your power?"
Tonight, you would never abuse power as retribution against anybody.
Except for day one.
Listen, he said, you would never abuse power for retribution against anyone. And he said, except for day one, meaning, yes, he's going to abuse power. Let's listen to that one more time.
You would never abuse power as retribution against anybody.
Except for day one.
So, yeah, yes, he would abuse power. And yes, he is abusing power. And there isn't anything, he feels that there's nothing that anybody can do about it. But he's walking himself into a veto. He's walking, listen, there's 2 years of this, and we can change out Congress. Now the Supreme Court justices are elected by the president, but these things can be challenged. We can be writing to judges. We can have online petitions against a lot of these executive orders, things that are maybe not in the Constitution, but they are something that will turn the country back. So there are things that we can do, but he is walking himself upon a veto. Not a veto. Of him getting out of office early. So let's take a look out at some of his let's look at the Project 2025 a little bit more. Okay, so let's do it here. All right, so Trump's Project 2025 agenda takes over the government to assert total control. It guts checks and balances. So consolidated unchecked presidential power by purging the civil service, firing independent agency leaders, which he just did. He those generals he just fired 17 of them, destroying entire agencies, which he did. He just destroyed. He just withdrew from the WHO. He just had the CDC not report to the WHO. They can't report on anything, any type of health disasters that are going on. Look, we have all kind of imported food in nationally and internationally, and we have to keep abreast on like bird flu, swine flu, not just these pandemics. So I think that he is traumatized by his first presidency. When he first got in office, literally within the year, COVID hit, and everybody was criticizing him about how he handled it. So I think that's why he's going up on the attack against the World Health Organization, because they were on his keister about how he was reporting it, because he was saying drink bleach, and I mean he was just very nonchalant about it as the leader of the free world, and people were dying of this. Now people would argue with you and say, oh well, the same amount of people that had the flu have passed away. Well, technically, it doesn't matter if they have the flu or if they have this thing that could end up worse. It needs to be managed. And he was making light of the whole situation. Anyways, so let's go to the next one. Political purge of the civil service imposes a loyalty test and purges thousands of independent civil servants so that the president can give control to thousands of political operatives handpicked for their questioned loyalty to the president, regardless of qualifications, expertise, or commitment to constitutional duty. Weaponizes the Department of Justice and the FBI. Now, listen, the Department of Justice just fired the people on that prosecuted him. In he had so many trials that just recently. He had so many. Let's look at NPR. Let's see. So let me get off of here. All right. So Justice Department moves to fire at least 12 officials who investigated Trump. Okay. The acting attorney general moved on Monday to fire several Justice Department officials who worked on the federal criminal investigations into Donald Trump. According to two department officials were familiar with the matter. In termination letters sent to more than a dozen officials, acting attorney general James McHenry wrote that he did not believe they could be trusted to faithfully implement the president's agenda because of their significant role in prosecuting the president. Boom, there you have it. Project 2025 is coming to life, and Donald Trump is making sure that that happens. And again, there were over 100 people that, or 100 organizations, right-wing organizations, let's be clear about that, that that was involved with writing this initiative. And it's 922 pages. They've been working on this for a very long time, and it's a legal brief. It's a legal document because the president is now using it. They had to do a lot of research. They had to make sure that everything was good. A lot of the executive orders were written based off of this Project 2025. So, all right. And then that was weaponizes the Department of Justice and the FBI. So undermines congressional oversight. So it evades the Senate's constitutional obligation to give advice and consent on the president's appointees and obstructs transparency, accountability, and oversight. So yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the day, Donald Trump is one of the he's just going to be this is how he's going to be for his whole presidency. I don't think it's just a day one thing. I think there's going to be um, more of this to come. So let's take a look here. Okay, let's take a look at this for Bernie Sanders video. So,
is urging CBS News not to yield to
oh wait,
President Donald
sorry.
Trump. The network is reportedly considering a settlement.
Let's look at a different video. But let's get back to here. But at the end of the day, I do feel that Trump is going to continue with this gutting of the Constitution. I also believe that so there was this thing where the White House said that they were just ushering in the new administration, and so they didn't. They were just cleaning up the new website. So they took down a couple of different pages, which was one of those was the Constitution, which is like, okay, this is something that is not. This is not good. Okay, so let's take a look at let's take a look at Robert Reich's video because he has good videos. Let's see.
Being with us. This is just a side note on
Give me 1 second here. Okay, so let's.
White House. Remember when Amazon was going around trying to sell every city in the country on establishing its stores, and it gathered all this information on all those cities, and Amazon now knows everything about everything in the country. There's something to be said for being at the center of the power when you are going to control the levers of power.
Absolutely, Ali. In fact, power today is not just wealth.
Yeah.
It's information, data. It's knowing what it is that everybody else is doing. And certainly, if you have all of the data that government has and you have access to it and you can slice it and dice it any way you want, that can translate into great wealth and great power.
So here's something interesting. Tesla dropped below 50% of all electric vehicle sales in the United States. That means other American companies or other companies' cars are being sold. There are 0 Chinese electric vehicles in America. For better or for worse, there are 0. So these are all other competitors. But guess what? He got an executive order this week eliminating incentives for other electric car producers. So kind of works, right? If you're Elon Musk, that was a pretty good investment in Donald Trump's campaign.
Absolutely. In fact, look under the hood, as it were, Ali, and what you always find is monopolization. In fact,
Yeah.
every time you follow the money and you're dealing with one of these current robber barons, in the second Gilded Age, that's what they are.
Yeah.
They are the generation of robber barons. You follow the money and you get to a monopoly, because that's where the big money is. Combine the monopoly with data, combine power that is market power with power that is information power, and you get Elon Musk.
Which actually gave me hope. I'd like to read from it. Trump hoodwinked the average working American into believing that he's on the side, and convinced enough voters that Kamala Harris and Democrats were on the side of cultural elites. But Trump's hoax will not for long, given the oligarchy's conspicuous takeover of America under Trump too. Trump's regime is already exposing reality that has been hidden from most Americans for decades. The oligarchy's obscene wealth and its use of that wealth to gain power over America. This is an interesting point. And Professor Tim Snyder has mentioned the fact that people over time turn against these oligarchies. It doesn't always mean a turn back to democracy, but they realize that they're being
in particular, Ali, I have an aversion to aristocracy. And after all, we were founded in revolt against monarchy and against an aristocracy, enormously powerful. The thing is that the Republican Party has used cultural populism over the last 10, 20 years to paint the elites as basically a deep state, or people who are coming into this country illegally, or people who are transgender. I mean, there is a different elite here that is really operating and pulling the levers of power, and that elite is an economic elite. The Democrats really have not talked enough, in my humble opinion, about the economic elite that is actually and has actually undermined American democracy over the last 30 or 40 years.
Right, a lot of people have gone after the academic elite, or whatever they think the elite is, the ivory towers. But in fact, in the midst of all this, for the last 50 years, what's been happening is we've just got this class of people who are now 0.01% of the population, controlling more wealth than the entire bottom half of the population.
Yes, and that's exactly the point, because they control the wealth. And what do they do with their wealth? They put a chunk of it into politics. There is the oligarchy. That's the oligarchy in action. That's what Elon Musk did. Putting $250 million, not $250,000, $250 million to get Donald Trump elected is the quintessence of what we face in an oligarchy. That's what oligarchies do. That's how they wed monopoly power and the power of just politics. That's what Elon Musk represents. That's what that picture that you showed of the three richest people in the United States in front of all the Republicans, in front of all of the people who are being nominated to high positions of power. These most powerful people in the world, Musk is embracing. He is not a tribune of the people. Musk is not somebody who's there for working class Americans, and it's going to be obvious.
Let's continue. But that can't be stated enough, that the oligarchy is something that that's the problem. And I do think people confuse our government with an actual democracy, but it has completely gradually getting to this point since Rockefeller and the DuPonts and those times where you had this great wealth, even with Robert Kennedy, the Kennedy dynasty, which is so interesting because RFK is the Kennedys, the dad Sorry about that. Okay, so let's continue here. What I was saying was is that we do actually live in what is called an oligarchy, and it's been a gradual progression ever since the first Gilded Age, and you can say that was with the Rockefellers and the Astors and the Ponts and um, the um, the Rothschilds, all of them. That was the first Gilded Age with the onset of they created this whole movement, this whole social class, if you will. But this was really to mirror what was happening in Europe and the monarchy there. They set it up over here, but just in a slightly different way. But that's just what's been happening since then. But there was a blatant oligarchy in Russia, and I just kind of want to go over what it is, because when people think of oligarchy, they only really think about, if you really are into this, you really only think about Russia. But Russia isn't the oligarchy anymore. But let's take a look at a video. We're going to just take a look at what oligarchs really are and how that really works. Um, let's look at the Business Insider. Let's take a look here. Let me.
This super yacht is worth almost $100 million. It's owned by a sanctioned Russian oligarch, and in April 2022, FBI agents and Spanish officials seized it. For years, the oligarchs didn't have much trouble buying up boats, jets, and mansions in places like this. That's if they didn't end up in prison, exiled, or mysteriously dead. Around 60% of the wealth of the richest Russians is held offshore. But the war in Ukraine has turned the world against members of this opulent uber class.
It's caused a lot of chaos. They've lost access to their accounts. Their family members have had their own accounts frozen or restricted or been kicked out of their banks.
So where did all the money come from? And is there still a chance of the oligarchs holding on? The year was 1992, and new business opportunities were emerging from the ashes of the Soviet Union. The president of the new Russian Federation, Boris Yeltsin, started privatizing companies that had been under communist state control. It was as if the whole country was up for sale. The government issued millions of these vouchers that Russians could use to buy shares in companies. Each voucher was worth about 2 months' wages at the time.
There were already some people who had amassed small fortunes. They were the ones who were the best positioned to take advantage of the new opportunities that were available.
Businessman Roman Abramovich was one of them, and Boris Berezovsky, a car dealership owner. More than 15,000 companies were privatized between 1992 and 1994. And as these companies grew, so did the wealth of their owners. And that's how the oligarchs were born. But Russia's rich were about to get much richer. In 1995, the government really needed cash.
Oligarchs managed to edge their way in the door.
They were part of the group that loaned the government hundreds of millions of dollars in exchange for a slice of some of Russia's biggest enterprises. The deal was if the government couldn't pay back the loans, the shares would be auctioned off, which is what ended up happening. The oligarchs ended up with vast business empires, some at well below market rate. The bank Menatep, run by Khodorkovsky, an oil company Yukos. Abramovich, with the help of Berezovsky, took control of another oil company. The newly privatized businesses and their oligarch owners did very well.
They were thought to be somehow keeping the system afloat.
It was reported the oligarchs were...
Does that sound like anybody here in America? where there's someone that has a great amount of wealth and they're looked at as the savior of the country and their business. In this case, they're oil tycoons. Does that sound like anybody here in America? Go ahead. Let's continue.
Funding of Yeltsin's re-election in 1996. They also helped launch the career of his successor, Vladimir Putin. But he would turn out to be no friend of the oligarchs.
The Russian president has warned that the country's super rich are not above the law. The authorities have been getting tough with the oligarchs.
Putin didn't want the oligarchs meddling in his politics. The wealthiest of all, Mikhail Khodorkovsky, was imprisoned for alleged tax crimes after openly challenging Putin, charges which he has denied.
The message that was sent to other oligarchs was, I'll let you run your businesses, you let me run the country.
Another critic, Berezovsky, fled to the UK, while Abramovich stayed loyal, serving as a governor in northeast Russia. It wasn't long before all this Russian money started cropping up overseas. Berezovsky bought this house in the UK and this one in the south of France. Abramovich went one step further. He bought Chelsea Football Club for around $200 million, along with a vast London mansion and about 70 other properties in the UK. Berezovsky remained a vocal critic of Putin.
Putin's Russia is very dangerous for democracy.
He was found dead in his home in England in 2013. Investigators recorded an open verdict, which means they could not say if he died by suicide or was murdered. Back in Russia, a new class of oligarchs emerged. Remember Khodorkovsky? The reins of his oil empire eventually went to a man known in Moscow as Darth Vader. Igor Sechin is reported to be a former KGB officer, like Putin himself. This new class of oligarchs is known as the Siloviki, or strongmen.
Today's oligarchs are all essentially beholden to Putin because their business depends on the state.
The number of Russians on the Forbes rich list rose from 0 in 1996 to over 100 in 2014. And the oligarchs certainly knew how to spend their cash. Part of London was nicknamed Red Square because so many wealthy Russians moved in, and parts of the French Riviera became known as the Bay of Billionaires. Then there were the floating palaces, soccer teams, and private jets. But their fortunes were about to take a turn. Russia's annexation of Crimea in 2014 gets sanctions on individuals with close ties to the Kremlin, including Sechin. But these were nothing in comparison to the sanctions storm
Sanctions
that was to hit the oligarchs in 2022.
What's different about it is just the speed, aggressiveness with which these sanctions are imposed.
The brutal invasion of Ukraine launched by Putin in February caused an international outcry. Sanctions came thick and fast, aimed at restricting the wealth and movement of those with links to the Kremlin.
We're coming for you, ill-begotten gains.
In a matter of weeks, the US sanctioned more than 400 people and entities.
Our clients are all scrambling to understand what these new restrictions on them are, what they have to do to comply.
Lawyers like Eric Ferrara advise
there's a threat. In this case, Russia's harmful foreign activities, which allows them to designate parties who are engaged in certain types of conduct.
The sanctions hit not just government officials, but also executives of state enterprises.
The U.S. Treasury only needs a reasonable cause to believe that they meet the designation criteria.
The two biggest factors are kind of proximity to Putin and doing Putin's bidding, set up against what's the impact going to be and can be mitigated properly.
The UK and the EU have their own sanctions lists, as do a handful of other countries.
Oligarchs in London have nowhere to hide.
All of these measures will significantly harm Putin's ability to finance his war.
As the net tightened, the race was on for oligarchs to find safe havens for their money, boats, and planes. Abramovich could see the storm coming. He reportedly shifted an investment company to a close associate as Russia was invading Ukraine. About 2 weeks later, he was added to the UK's sanctions list for having a stake in a company accused of producing steel for Russian tanks, which the company denies. His UK assets were also frozen.
The majority of the wealth of these people is in publicly traded companies. There might be complicated corporations around them, but blocking up those holdings and impacting those companies has an effect, and that's just hard to dodge.
Some of Abramovich's business interests have been harder to track down. Take Matterhorn Capital, which has been linked to Abramovich. It was first registered in the Cayman Islands before being moved to the British Virgin Islands. Both are British overseas territories known for helping wealthy people hide their money. And then to the island of Jersey. But in April 2022, Jersey froze assets worth more than $7 billion connected to Abramovich. That's around half of his estimated wealth. He won't even be able to profit from the sale of his beloved Chelsea Football Club. Meanwhile, Abramovich has done all he can to distance himself from the Kremlin, even playing a role as mediator in peace talks between Ukraine and Russia. But after one of these meetings, he and other negotiators reportedly suffered symptoms of poisoning. The US has so far spared Abramovich from its sanctions list, but the EU hasn't. About a dozen properties in France linked to Abramovich were seized. In fact, the EU and UK have banned him from entering. He was spotted at Tel Aviv airport a few days after being sanctioned. A jet linked to then flew to Istanbul and on to Moscow. 2 of his yachts were scrambled Turkey, beyond the reach of Western sanctions. Maritime trackers show yachts belonging to wealthy Russians also fleeing to places like Montenegro and the Maldives. But Sechin wasn't quick enough. French authorities seized the superyacht Amore Vero near Marseille in March 2022 as its crew was preparing to set sail. The French, it belongs to Sechin, which he denies. Another boat that's also linked to Sechin was detained by Spanish authorities.
He fundamentally will have trouble conducting any sort of cross-border transaction, period. It's probably confined mostly to live in Russia.
Fast boats and homes can be hard to hide, but much of the oligarch's real wealth is carefully hidden away. Many of their assets and businesses are registered under a different name, as trusts or shell companies in offshore tax havens.
This is oftentimes a game of black and white. That's a lot of what sanctions is.
In the US, banks are required to name the beneficial owner account, while private equity firms and hedge funds are not. But it's been getting harder for the oligarchs to conceal their wealth. Since 2016, the UK has required that the beneficial owners of companies be named. The Cayman Islands said it froze $7.3 billion in assets belonging to sanctioned Russians. Once they are blacklisted, the reputational damage can last a lifetime, and no amount of money can buy that back.
I have clients who are off of the sanctions list, who've been removed years ago, who still can't get a bank account in UAE, or whose family members still can't get a bank account, although they were never sanctioned.
Sanctioned oligarch Mikhail Friedman feels he has been unfairly targeted.
We do not have any impact for political decisions.
According to Forbes, his wealth has shrunk by more than $3.5 billion. By April 2022, 18 oligarchs had dropped off the Forbes billionaires list because of the avalanche of sanctions. Sanctions may be hurtful.
All right, so the point of that is to show you just how close these very, very, very wealthy billionaire men are close to power. And that correlates to what's happening in America today. There are so many people in America today that are, well, there's quite a few billionaires. So Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, and there's a few of other billionaires, and a lot of them are now crypto billionaires. That Sam Bankman-Fried was one of those, which I really, in my opinion, think that he still has some type of sway. Because just because these people go to jail does not mean that they don't still have connections. Like Michael Milken, he was one that he ran a Ponzi scheme. He went to prison. When he got out, he had a job waiting for him by his billionaire friend. So the point is that these very uber rich men and women, people that are very rich, they have the opportunity to get very close to power and then start to give them money. That's what Sam Bankman-Fried was doing. He was feeding both parties so that he could get certain he can carve out laws that benefited him, benefited his friends, benefited his network. And this is what Donald Trump is doing. This is what his administration means to do. They want to transform the entire federal government and gut the Constitution. They're going to gut the checks and the balances so that they can overtake the government. They're already talking about Trump running for a third term. But let me just take a look and see if I can find that. But that's what they're trying to do now to see if they can get it through. He jokes about he joked. I just watched that White House keynote that he gave to the GOP. Let's see.
Well, she's not the easiest person to please, right, Mama?
But at the end of the day, the reason why they were in front of all of Trump's cabinet that's going to be coming into office is because they are the actual, I call it the silent government. The silent government are those who are actually not elected but selected, and that would be these billionaires that we do know about, and then also the billionaires that we don't know about.
The proud voice of hardworking American citizens of every race, religion, color, and creed. We become the party of the American dream and wealth creation for everyone, not just the rich. If we do our job over the next 21 months, not only will House Republicans be reelected and expand our majority in 2026, we'll cement a national governing coalition that will preserve American freedom for generations to come. There has never.
Hold on, let me share it.
Under our leadership, the Republican Party has become the proud voice of hardworking American citizens of every race, religion, color, and creed. We become the party of the American dream and wealth creation for everyone, not just the rich. If we do our job over the next 21 months, not only will House Republicans be reelected and expand our majority in 2026, we will cement a national governing coalition that will preserve American freedom for generations to come. There has never been anything like what's happened in politics in the last few years. Never been anything like it. Everybody, people of religion, everybody seems to be with us. I don't know how anybody could even vote for the other side. In many cases, they don't, but they do get credit for it. You'll have to think about that. I've raised a lot of money for the next race that I assume I can't use for myself, but I'm not 100% sure because I don't know. I think I'm not allowed to run again. I'm not sure. Am I allowed to run again, Mike? I better not get you involved in that argument. No, we raised a lot of money, a tremendous amount. And our teletown halls are something that's very special that nobody else is able to even contemplate using. We've gotten a lot of people elected with those teletown halls.
But see, that's the thing. He's not joking. He's not joking at all. He is not joking at all. He would prefer to run again because, again, why would he shape the government? Why would he come in first day, guns blazing, figuratively speaking, with these executive orders, signing over almost 350? That's a lot. No president has ever signed that many. I mean, that's over the course of their presidency. In my opinion, I think that he was getting these executive orders ready for when he ran in office. Because if you don't know, Trump has been running for the past, or campaigning for the past 4 years. So when he got in office, these were all ready because from all the work that he had been doing prior to actually winning the race. But he plans to change the entire government so that maybe he will be able to run a third term or even a fourth, because FDR did run 4 terms. I mean, after that, things were ratified and you couldn't, the Constitution was ratified and you couldn't do it anymore. But who's to say that he can't try to change it back? I mean, he's already trying to change birthright citizenship and other things that are going against the Constitution, and judges are saying, well, you can't just do that. But if he is able to do that, he can do it again. Yeah. So that is, I mean, that's wild. But yeah, this country is turning into a straight up oligarchy. And the reason why it is because, you know, they have Project 2025 and they have over 100 think tanks working with them to try to get this done. Let's see if we can finish with this here. And then, so undermines racial equality, defunds services in underserved communities, and eliminates policies and programs aimed at advancing racial diversity, equity, and inclusion. It would fire federal employees who participated in a DEI program and hinder efforts to address racial inequalities. This is what it's already doing. The mass deportations are going to be a very big drawback on our economy. Let me see if I can find the mass deportations and the implications that it's going to have on our economy. It's not just about people being here illegally. I mean, it is. I mean, there should be some management there, obviously, right? But at the end of the day, there's perks, there are positives, pros to having people here that are from different countries, and maybe they should be, if they are working, maybe they should be given, and they're not involved in any criminal activity, they should be given work visas if that's what they're doing. But at the end of the day, yeah, it's just so mad. The deportation. Hold on. Wait.
I'm an immigrant.
What the heck? Oh my gosh. All right, y'all. Well, looks like it's time for this to.
I'm so sorry. So many people are getting attacked. The children. I'll try everything. I promise.
Selena Gomez in tears after a headline-making weekend as the Trump administration's newly enacted immigration crackdown led to nearly 1,000 arrests and deportations.
I'm so sorry. I wish I could do something, but I can't. I don't know what to do.
I'm very lucky that I have the platform I have.
The actress using that platform on Monday to speak with her 422 million Instagram followers. In a now deleted story, Selena, who is of Mexican heritage, breaks down over the mass deportation efforts, largely targeting Latinos.
I just want to say that I'm so sorry. So many people are getting attacked. The children.
It's not the first time Sel's spoken out in this arena. Back in 2019, during President Trump's first term, Selena opened up to Time about her grandparents' journey to the U.S. as illegal immigrants, thanking them for their bravery and sacrifice, and calling immigration a human issue affecting real people.
I'm so sorry. I wish I could do something, but I can't. I don't know what to do.
After this video vanished on her IG page, Selena's cryptic follow-up hinted at a potential onslaught of online critics. Apparently, it's not okay to show empathy for people. For Trump, this is all a campaign promise. He made it clear deportations are a cornerstone of his second term.
Sir, this is a proclamation declaring a national emergency at the southern border of the United States.
That's a big one.
I'll try everything I promise.
Now, this is just to show power. That's really what this particular thing is all about when he is deporting all these people. It's not just about the people that are here illegally. It's about showing power towards other countries. If you see how he's treating these other countries, Colombia, Mexico, Honduras, I believe, Panama, Canada, he's just really lashing out at all these countries, trying to flex his power. This is what he's trying to do. And I think a part of it is because of the fact that his presidency is broken up. So he wants to come back stronger and make it to where he's respected across, geopolitically. But ultimately, that's not what that's what it's about. But ultimately, it's about seizing more power. So he wants to end Social Security and Medicare as we know them. Let's take a look here. End Social Security as we know them, and raise prescription drug prices, which he's already done. Cripples the public education because they're going to get rid of the Department of Education. The slashing public school funding redirects taxpayer dollars to religious private schools. That's wild right there. And I bet you it's going to be Catholic schools too. Catholic schools are they're notorious for abusing children. And I don't understand why people think that that's actually a legitimate way to really, we can't trust the Catholic Church at all. But that's what's happening there. They're going to eliminate Head Start, end overtime pay. Now I know that they're talking about no taxes on tips. No taxes on tips. Okay, but these workers that are earning tips, tip workers only earn, I think it's like $2.17 or something like that. So there shouldn't be taxes on their tips. They're barely, you don't know, you're not guaranteed any particular amount of money. I mean, you could make a lot of money one day and not so much on the other day, but that probably balances out by the end of the month. So there's a lot of, you see all these initiatives, but there was over 700 in that this original document here. This is the original document. You see how it's 922 pages? There's over 700 different initiatives in here. Again, a bunch of different think tanks put this together. This isn't just one think tank. If you look at this, it's the Department of Education, Department of Agriculture, Department of Energy and related commissions, the EPA, Department of Health and Human Services. I mean, he just is coming back. He's coming after all the government agencies. Really, it just seems like he's balkanizing the government and the proletariat at the same time. Because when you balkanize something, you make it weaker. You break it into smaller pieces. It's like a cracker. You break up the cracker, but then in reality, you make the little pieces of each broken piece of cracker fight each other or be at war with one another. That's what balkanization is. When you break up a larger part of something, and then those little smaller factions are starting to war with one another. That's kind of how the Black community is in certain respects. Not in all for sure, but in certain respects, that's how we have been targeted without us really understanding what the play was. But that's what happened to, that's the active directive towards our community, is to continue to keep us balkanized, break us up in any type of like, anytime we get any type of unity going or any type of movement going or anything like that, it gets infiltrated and broken up, because that's always the play, balkanize the Black community. But these, I just wanted to show y'all, these are the different agencies and think tanks that contributed to this. A lot of different think tanks contributed to this particular document. All right, so that has been for today. I just wanted to kind of go over, you know, how that is all working out. Donald Trump is, at the end of the day, he is coming for as much power as he can without really being challenged. And if he is challenged, he's trying to find ways to get people to fight for him and get in front of him so that he can continue to move forward. So he's putting people, it's like a football game. He's the quarterback, and all these people that are around him, the running back, you know, all these people are making sure that there's a path for him to get to the final goal, which is to seize power ultimately. And so that's what the play is. The play is ultimate power to get the Constitution so he can either stay in office or keep Republicans in office enough to where they can continually get rich, and this 1% can continually have the money, the wealth, or whatever they feel they need or want. And then also they get off on thinking or feeling that they are better than other people by the way that they treat and the way that they oppress people. It's a definitely some type of sick gratitude they get from it, or some type of sick satisfaction they get from it. All right, well, that's been it, today's show. I will be back on here tomorrow. I will see you guys later. See you guys later. Bye.